Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to talk about Justice League versus the Fatal Five. So, we come to an animated movie that I feel is very important for, of course, what is to have gone on within recent days. That, of course, be the Superman movie, and is to have a lot of people need to find some kind of animated movie that showcases Mr. Terrific very well, even so much so better than the Superman film. And this is it. Honestly, this is to have a full showing, a very bit of Terrific's powers in every way possible, because he is to be a more prominent member of the Justice League, as well as also uh, really having to show every bit of why he is to be enrolled in this team, because half of the time when I would see him in, or a third of the time when I would see him in Justice League Unlimited, he's just at the Watchtower doing nothing. So when going into this film, it's kind of a two birds with one stone kind of situation here, also, because not only am I getting what uh, everyone wants and I want with Mr. Terrific here in this animated film, but then also I'm getting a thing on top of that. I'm going on to get a story that I was kind of interested in with Jessica Cruz here, because I was to go on and be kind of sifting through to try and find female Green Lanterns and just kind of get to know any number of them. And come to find out, like, it seemed for every time I was kind of do a bit of research, I would stumble upon this Jessica Cruz character. I'm like, okay, well, who is this character? What is she about? So on and so forth. And I never really felt that I got like the exact amount of uh, what I wanted out of that. So I got it here. So this movie is to easily, I feel, be just better than the Superman film, just because of, I think, probably its more dark tone at some points, and also how it seems almost to tell an origin story of a character, even though there obviously is one thing that kind of bugged me about the fact that we don't actually see how Jessica actually got her Green Lantern ring in this film, which is kind of annoying. We just have to go on and assume of how she got it, or probably have to have read the comic books to have gotten that story. But so we have this Justice League versus the Fatal Five film, and I think the only problems is like we have to like enroll the Legion in this film. We have to involve a character called Starboy, who, like, his powers are really interesting and really cool, but it's just the fact that we still have to incorporate uh, the Legion from the 31st century in here, because I know a lot of people do not like the Legion. I get it. I had watched the Legion of Superheroes, and I was entertained, but like I really didn't care for that kind of show, and I can understand why. Just because it's just built on visuals and not much else. So, or in the Legion's case, like it's just built on I don't know what exactly. Um, there is no story that can go on and match those just kind of weird visuals. It's kind of like Eternals in a lot of ways. So like, there's nothing that is going to go on and buy me into an Eternals movie just because of the way that those characters look. But so for this film, we also are to showcase the Fatal Five. And in all honesty, I'm not really familiar with this group, hence more me being rather interested in a film like this, just because, like, when seeing stuff like the Superman film, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I know who Ultraman is. Oh, well, I know who um, all the players are in the Superman film. So it's just kind of like they didn't try to kind of throw a wrench into the thing of giving me something that I feel is different enough. Whereas this movie, it kind of gives me stuff that I'm less familiar with, and so that's why I can go on and feel that this was worth my time just for seeing something that is new as a Justice League or DC comic books animated film. Because I've seen so many other animated movies that have gone on and just kind of run the gamut of being the same things over and over again, where it's either versus Starro or Brainiac or Joker or uh, just the same stuff again and again and again. It's not fresh. It's not interesting enough to really bide my time. I think we end up getting Justice League versus Teen Titans, and we end up getting another Trigon story, I believe. That sort of Trigon, I'm like, I'm just so done with these characters. I'm just so done with them because it's the same old song and dance. Like, if they really want to go on and fix something in the DC comic books, or to fix uh, stuff going forward for movies and so on and so forth, like, avoid doing so many obvious choices. Like, if anything, like, I think it's finally time to actually switch up certain characters rogues gallery and either add new characters, or I think it's time to just kind of maybe swap characters out for certain rogues galleries, so that way, like, the comic books at least somehow kind of become a little bit more unexpected. But like, hey, what is Mirror Master going on and doing in Gotham? Who knows? But at least they'll go on and be something more interesting. What is Clayface doing in Metropolis? Ooh, yeah, we're right. Whoa, and so on and so forth. Because at least that'll be a lot more entertaining to kind of see these characters just kind of pop up from out of their uh, unnorms. But anyways, it won't matter anyways. They'll never do stuff like that because they're just kind of set in their ways. But uh, so we have also Miss Martian being supposedly added to the Justice League. But then again, there is always to be that newbie into the Justice League that for a film they have to just kind of bring in, and then we have to kind of forget about it. Just because logically, it's like, well, what is this actually tied to? Is this the transition between Justice League Unlimited to Young Justice, where Miss Martian just goes on and becomes Young Justice anyways? It is kind of rather interesting how Batman has a disdain of working with teenagers, and then obviously Miss Martian has to bring up, well, Robin, and then Batman's like, well, touche, but like, uh, but hey, don't push it. And then Batman is forced to then realize that, like, as the Justice League progresses and turns into what inevitably is the Legion, how he's to go on and realize that there is a whole team that is to be kind of the defenders of the planet kind of thing, enforcing uh, Batman to go on and realize that, like, well, hey, like, this is to go on and be uh, eventually a building thing that, like, regardless of the age of these actual characters, that, like, we definitely need to go on and look at this and realize that, like, this is where our future is heading, to have our world be defended um, by the youth of what is to go on and be technically this planet, even though you probably surmise that it's not exactly um, their planet because it's not of their time. Because, yeah, we have some time hopping going on, folks. Not a whole lot, because technically the future time hopping is just kind of in someone's mind. But, like, yeah, we have a bit of time hopping. Technically, well, yeah, we also have a bit of the 31st century, also in the early stages of this movie, anyways. Um, it is too bad that we don't get, like, the kind of Chronos time hopping where we get to the Batman Beyond um, time period, but, like, yeah, like, I didn't expect us to kind of do that either, or expect Terry McGinnis to live that long um, for that 31st century future to happen. As well as also in the Batman Beyond Justice League, I think there's still a Green Lantern in there. So we also come to find out in this story why there is no Green Lantern in the 31st century. How it seems that Oa had gone on to have a bit of a crisis that led to the definitive, like, destruction of all the Green Lanterns, and how there just has to be a memorial for all of them, and forcing us to realize that Kyle Rayner is not in the costume that we are to kind of know him by for the Justice League series. But I guess we really have to just go on and be like, well, who cares? Like, it's uh, to have Kyle Rayner so briefly used in the Justice League animated stuff, or have him to just kind of not be really that membered at all. Like, people could probably look at that costume and probably maybe know that it's Kyle Rayner, or to go on and be like, okay, well, who's that guy, and possibly look him up within uh, comic books and what have you. And have the more white costume probably stick out compared to all the other costumes. But so, this movie, if I haven't said already, it is to go on and be a solid, good, if not almost great film. I really enjoyed it. I feel it has really good rewatchability, even though all the characters within it, I'm just kind of like, yeah, like, I didn't really like the Legion being used, or I didn't like this being, like, it's being it at that point, it's being very nitpicky. I honestly, like, the one real problem that I have with this film is how every one of these kinds of films have to open, and how we always have this chase scene that is to go on and lead to uh, us being reminded of, like, Crisis on Two Earths, where we have this whole chase scene, and this all leads to planet hopping, or in this case, time hopping. And I'm like, we've done this scene already. We're probably going to continue to do this kind of scene consistently. As well as also, this movie goes on to remind me quite a bit of the Supergirl joining the Legion of Superheroes within, I believe, Justice League Unlimited somewhere. It seems very similar, where you have Brainiac and you have Bouncing Boy, and they're in desperation to need the help of Supergirl, and they end up kind of bringing her into their time and so on and so forth. And come to find out that their team doesn't have a Supergirl, so it's like, well, like I might as well go into the future to be a part of this team because I feel that they need a Kryptonian more so uh, than the Justice League Unlimited does. So she stays with the future and is also to be interested in Brainiac here. And so I honestly just like uh, that is an interesting uh, kind of send off for that character in that show, but it's just like, yeah, but we're never gonna get the closure again of what happens with that character because we never will do a Legion show. Believe me, we won't. But so let's go on and let's just break down this movie, get into spoilers because I realize how this is a movie that's like an hour and change, a little bit of change. So yeah. So let me know how you are to have either liked this film or liked several other uh, DC or Marvel animated movies or shows, because at some point, not only has Marvel done some anime, and I mean very seldomly some animated projects, but also like they've done more motion comics than anything else that are Blu-ray and or DVD released or whatever. Uh, we would also go on to say that there are a plethora of different animated films that are to go on and still have not been reviewed on this channel. I could probably easily go on and realize that Crisis of Two Earths could be a justifiable thing to go on and check out because it's a much different approach than what they did in the Superman film, and that is to go on and have a story talk about Ultraman. For those of you that aren't familiar with that character, no, he's not a clone. He's actually about be from an alternate dimension. Um, anyways, so I feel that there's probably enough time passing to where I could probably talk about that, but like it doesn't feel maybe like an absolute, maybe spoiler, maybe not spoiler. Oh well, like uh, if anything, yeah, I'm not. Uh, I'm probably gonna feel bad about that, but logically, it's this Superman movie is enjoyable. It's entertaining. I liked it, but also I have a number of problems with it. Also, probably more problems than I do have positivity to talk about it. But you guys can go on and watch the review and probably have heard all of that. Whereas this, you may go on and not check out just because it's not Superman 2025. But I'm definitely going to use that as a clickbaiting thing to get people in here. So let's go on and let's do the breakdown. I'm gonna have to go on into turning on my phone and pausing this video here because it is that song and dance time. Spoiler time, spoiler time. It's about the time I'm going to spoil this movie. Let me know in the comments below any comments you would like to put down because that would greatly help out my channel. If you are to go on and not be subscribed, do whatever you want. Don't subscribe, watch the video, and then leave. That's okay because at the end of the day, it still helps out this channel. I'm not going to force anybody to do anything that they wouldn't want to do ordinarily because that's just silly to me. Like, hey, yeah, definitely subscribe if you haven't already because if you haven't really cared much about any of this content, then you're probably not going to care about this one either. Or I'm not going to ask everyone to like this video because regardless, like, it'll end up doing what it ends up doing anyways. Like, if anything, just the view matters really at this point. because I've gone on and done thousands of videos at this point, and not a whole lot of them had gotten likes on them. And they would go on and either do thousands of things or get daily squat of nothing, like a lot of the stuff that I've been doing currently within this channel. Hence why I can go on and have the freedom of just kind of like, well, I'm just going to just do whatever at this point. Logically, just because uh, I'm to want to go on and talk about these titles or talk about these things. And also just realize a lot of these are to either be, oddly enough, popular on YouTube anyways, because I see that they are, but they're gonna all end up being stuff that eventually is to just kind of grow with time. So let me pause here. Let me get to my notes. All right, so the beginning of this movie starts off with Starboy running into Legion headquarters. I'm sure that there probably is an actual name for the Legion headquarters, and I'm just calling it Legion headquarters. Or maybe coincidentally, it's that name. I'm not quite sure because I don't really care. It's Legion. Why do I have to go on and definitely I need to know every little thing about the Legionnaires or the Legion because they're not really important characters to a lot of people, anyways. So Starboy is running into Legion headquarters uh, to go on and ask both Saturn Girl and Brainiac 5 for countermeasures to slow the team that is behind him, that is chasing after him, down. So he can go on and be able to kind of get some distance uh, from these guys so he can go on and be able to meet with the group and try and put the pieces together of why this group is after them and why they have made their way to these headquarters. So as the door slams behind Starboy, they're trying to figure out exactly why is it that these people have come here to these headquarters. And so Saturn Girl is to use her abilities because it seems that she has some kind of either brain powers or some kind of psychic abilities. And she states that they're here for the time ship. And so this then has us realize that, like, well, okay, like if they're here for the time ship, we're going to make it so that they don't get the time ship. And so Brainiac is going on to say here, it's like, well, hey, I can go into the time ship and force there to be some kind of time loop to where they're kind of stuck, and and build it into the time ship and try to stop these guys from trying to do what they're doing. And both Saturn Girl and Starboy, it's like, well, how long is it going to take you to do something like that? And Brainiac is like, well, more time than we have. So, like, you guys need to figure out some way to just block these characters from getting in this room as long as you possibly can. And I mean as long as you possibly can. So, because we already see Mano, who is trying to decay his way or burn his way through this wall. So, we go on in desperation to, of course, have Starboy using his power to just kind of block and try to control the wall. Uh, and while that's going on, Saturn Girl is telling Starboy, it's like, well, hey, like, where is your injection? Like, you're definitely overdue. And Starboy is telling Saturn Girl, it's like, hey, get out of my head. Like, let's be focused here. And we'll find out later that Starboy is going to go on and need medication, or otherwise he starts to become very forgetful, as well as also this character is to seem to be so unbalanced that in the later half of this movie we come to find that if Starboy doesn't take this medication, like they will no longer accept him in the Legion, just because of how much of a risk that this guy is to the team and to anyone. But eventually that'll kind of be do away with what we do away with anyways, as Starboy will still go on and be a helpful team of what ends up being the Justice League, and we'll showcase why here in a minute. So, as Mano, Thorak, and the Persuader break through, and immediately when I'm thinking the Persuader, I'm like, man, this guy is to look just like either the Destroyer to me, or is to kind of be a version of Thor. It's very weird. For how he kind of has the axe thing, and it kind of like flies back to him, similar to Thor in a lot of ways. And Thorak reminds me of just kind of a number of different characters, like any kind of robotic character. Uh, and we also, it seems, have Mano, who at one point Batman calls Skeletor, which is kind of funny. But also, like, Mano kind of looks just like Atomic Skull to me. It's very weird. So we have the group here taking out Starboy and Saturn Girl, and then they go on to have Thorak, that is to go on to have this just kind of crane-like arm that is to go on and grab Brainiac and throw him out of this time ship. And as much as the Legion is trying to go on and stop this group, they end up just getting freaking just beaten down here. I'm like, where is the rest of the Legion here? Like, when looking at the rest of the Legion, like, there is quite a bit of arsenal that is to go on and be within the scene, but I guess like they've just kind of, I guess, reached the Legion at just an understaffed moment. So as Thrak, Persuader, and Mano make their way into the time ship, uh, Brainiac realizes that he didn't have enough time. So we just have Thomas, aka Starboy, who rushes to the time ship just to seemingly touch it so he can go along with the ship to uh, make its way into the past. So, having both Saturn Girl and Brainiac be like, all right, okay, like, well, I guess we just have to watch this ship just vanish because there's nothing we can do. So now this ship is to be falling from space into Earth's atmosphere. And Starboy is to go on and, because he's Starboy, be able to breathe in space, and he can go on and make his way, even so that he can make his way to the time ship and try and stop it from getting to land on Earth. So Starboy uses his powers to hit the head of Mano onto this time ship to try and stall uh, the ship here from easily being able to uh, do what it is to have originally been tasked to, and ends up having both Mr. Terrific and Superman try and figure out what this ship really is. For how it's just kind of just stuck there and is to just be this ball, and they're just trying to figure out what exactly this ball is. So, as the ship crash lands onto what I would assume would be Metropolis, there's to be this one boy that just stands still. And so Superman kind of busts chops here. He's just like, "Oh, are you all right, son?" And the kid is like, "Well, yeah." And so Superman applauds the kid for like, "Well, hey, it's nice that you kept your cool, but maybe next time you should probably run." So now that Superman is now looking at this honeycomb looking ball, this black honeycomb looking ball, he is to go on and of course be like, okay, what the heck is this? Like, why did this crash land here? So Starboy ends up going on to make his way into uh, kind of digging himself out of where he was to remember that he had his Legion ring, so he can go on and fly, which he could technically already fly anyway. So I just didn't quite get exactly what the point of the ring was. But also, like, it has a showcase here that like Starboy is losing his memory, so I guess that was the whole reasoning for the ring here. So Starboy goes on to check uh, to see that he has an injection left so he can use it, but come to find out the only injection thing that he has is now broken. So he's like, well, of course, like the one injection I have left, of course, uh, like this isn't great, this sucks. So we go on to have Starboy, who is trying to keep his faculties here, and goes on to look at a pharmacy. Is like, like this is to probably help me out and give me my medication that I'm to go on need. But realizing that, like, as Starboy is to go on and say this here, that he's not in his time period, and they've never even heard of medication like this. So Starboy makes his way into the pharmacy where a woman, eventually a doctor behind the counter, is kind of freaking out because of this character being in this costume and like what is going to really happen here. So we have Starboy who is desperately asking for quat, uh, quattro low zapine, whatever this medication is, to make him feel better. And as the further and further he goes on and asks for it and states how this is an emergency and you have to give me it, and eventually the more and more he's to go on and say that it's a mental stabilizer that's the most common in this galaxy, and then he's like, come on, like, give me what I need. And then he's like, oh, like, this is in the past, like, you guys won't have something like this. And oh, also you're scared of my costume. So Starboy tries to go on and kind of mitigate this whole problem, and so he takes off his costume and now he's in the buff. He's completely naked here. So the doctor just goes on and runs off and eventually calls the police, and Starboy starts to make his way through the pharmacy to just try and find a way of finding medication that will help him with his problem. And so he starts sifting through the pharmacy. So these two cops go on and try and stop Starboy here. And we would, of course, have uh, Starboy being like trying to go on and trying to not hurt these police officers, but he uses his powers to have their guns being forced down, which then has Starboy kind of run out of this pharmacy because he has nowhere else to really go, and he then bumps into Batman, and so Batman ends up asking Starboy, as Starboy is now down on the ground, like, "Hey, where do you think you're going?" And Starboy ends up saying that he needs to go on and find Limelight, that he needs to go to the 21 bridges, and Batman is like, okay, I have no idea what this guy is saying, so he gasses him, Batman does, and then knocks him out. So we then cue up Jessica Cruz's origin story, where she seems to be backpacking with either her family or her friends. Doesn't really matter because logically, uh, like we just have an origin story here going on. So, and then also the people that are with her won't last for very long, sadly enough, because Jessica goes on to make her way uh, to this site where all of a sudden she starts to notice that there is uh, to go on and be a guy who is burying a dead body. We notice this because there's a bullet hole in a body that is to go on and obviously be like, okay, all right, like this guy is doing something shady here. So the one that's kind of confusing to me is that is there more than one person here, or is it the same guy and we're kind of seeing like a cutting of a way of having us assume that it's more than one person just because of the way that this is edited. I'm not quite sure. I'm assuming it's just one guy just because of how um, about how the character is actually just to be dressed here. Um, but let me know in the comments below if it's multiple people if you think. So as Jessica Cruz and friends are to put their hands up, one by one they end up getting shot in the head. One guy is going down, then a woman is to seem to follow. Jessica, of course, the one that is to stay alive here because this is just her origin story, is to run off and is to try to make her way through the woods, obviously getting shot along the way. So Cruz goes on to find her way to this cliff, and she ends up not seeing her assailant, but is to turn and to look at him in the silhouette or the shadow of this character. And I guess we'll never go on and see who this person actually is. And it would have actually been nice if they would have had some kind of reveal of who this character was. Like, it would have been interesting if this would have been any of the Fatal Five or something along those. It would have been interesting to kind of see that they actually cared about revealing who this person was, but they didn't. And then also, I guess it really doesn't matter. Or maybe they go on and they reveal it somewhere in the comic book somewhere. And I just don't know who this character actually is. So, as the killer is to go on and fire around Jessica Cruz's feet, Cruz falls over and is to fall supposedly to her death. And I would have to assume that that is probably where the Green Lantern ring had become a thing, saved her, and had her become a Green Lantern. Or otherwise, she would be dead. I would have to logically also have to go on and probably have done some bit of comic book research before actually going into this to tell you the whole origin story of this character in its complete aspect. But I didn't do that legwork because I didn't feel that I needed to, and then also I just kind of thought that this movie does a well enough job of covering this character's origin, technically. So, but anyways, we transition to Jessica Cruz waking up in her bed, haunted by her origin story, and remembering that I'm sure every single day that she is of a dreaming person, to wake up to realize that she is to face every day in every way, and that she's getting better and better. And she's saying all this mantra as if it's to really be just a load of crap. And eventually she turns to her therapist, and the therapist to go on and be like, well, maybe you need a new mantra, maybe something that better fits you. And we may go on and have Jessica find that mantra, which is to probably be the Green Lantern oath. But then again, uh, that is a kind of a very clever way to just kind of put together a Green Lantern character and talk about mantras and in this case Jessica's oath. So Jessica goes on and states here how it's still a struggle just for her to get out of bed, and she has been dealing with this for 3 years now. Supposedly what she goes on to tell her therapist, that like at this point like nothing is really working, nothing is really helping her, and what can she really do? She's in like desperation to figure out what is the trick or the key thing here that is going to help her in this situation. She ends up explaining that my brain is like a hamster wheel. I feel fuzzy, like I'm full of cotton and I can't breathe right. I get to the door and imagine all of these awful things uh, that could be on the other side, and I'm paralyzed. So we find this to be a very drastically different tale than like a Batman, how Batman had gone on to lose his whole entire family, and right after he was to go on and have that happen, like he had dedicated his life to become the best assassin slash martial artist, whatever, or what have you, to try and go on and be the best possible defender that Gotham has to offer. And we, on the opposite of Jessica here, like she doesn't want to go on and face her day. She doesn't want to face her enemies, and she doesn't want to defend her city. Like she wants to just consistently find a way out, until it seems that she is finally forced in this situation to realize that she needs to go on and act. She needs to do something, and that's what goes on to make this character a lot more interesting once we get in this movie further, to see how this character is trying as much as possible to, regardless of her feelings, face the music. So Jessica does make it out her door and leaves her place to make her way to this therapy session. And the therapist says to Jessica how it wasn't her fault, and that like she survived, like she's surviving, and like that isn't to go on and be anything to not feel bad about. And what Jessica experiences a terrible trauma, and it still will take time to heal. And Jessica's like, well, it's been 3 years now. Like, can't you just give me pills or something? Like at this point, like she still is not going on and having much change. And like, yeah, like there are several cases where you go on, you have people that have like intruded in people's homes, and like it's very hard to shake something like that and also uh like people are still like realizing that they don't ever really quite feel safe. So uh so the therapist goes on and asks Jessica about like, well, hey, did you try your mantra for the day? And Jessica's like, well, no, it's not really working. And the therapist turns to Jessica and says, well, how about you create your own mantra? And one that specifically works for you. And Jessica is like, well, maybe my mantra should go on and just be like, I give up. Like, I'm not going to do this job. And the therapist is like, oh yeah, like you did talk about how you do have a new job. Like it's a security job. But it seems to be bringing an exceeded amount of anxiety onto you. And Jessica's like, well, yeah, it is very stressful. Uh, so we go on to have the therapist realize that maybe that this job isn't exactly for you. But Jessica realized, like, well, like I didn't choose the job chose me. And all of a sudden, we see this glowing green light from Jessica's bag and realize that the Green Lantern ring is calling for her. So Jessica says, like, well, speaking of work, like, I think that the therapy session is over. And so she leaves for the day. So Jessica puts on her Green Lantern ring, and the power ring ends up telling her that there's only 18% power left, and that she should recharge soon. And Jessica's like, yeah, I'll get right to that. As Jessica really does not give a fuck about charging her ring. So, as Jessica starts to make her way uh, through the town, all of a sudden Wonder Woman appears from behind her. I'm like, dude, Wonder Woman, like, aren't you kind of blowing Jessica's cover here? Like, immediately when people are going to go on and look around to say, like, hey, why is that woman going on and talking to Wonder Woman? Like, that obviously, like, that kind of sticks out to me. But so Wonder Woman is going on and talking to Jessica about how it seems that Jessica has been ignoring their calls for her. And Jessica is like, well, hey, how about you just get Martian Manhunter to help you out? How about you find John? And Woman's like, well, John's off-world. He's in Kron, or Ron. Facing off against some Themyscira threat, it seems. And that's why we end up seeing, like, they have to write out Martian Manhunter. They have to write out quite a bit of Green Lanterns here. They have to write out uh, seemingly a bunch of Hawkman and Hawkgirls and whoever the heck else who was supposed to be involved in this Justice League team to give a different assortment of Justice League characters. So Diana or Wonder Woman tells Jessica here, it's like, well, hey, like, you need to step up. You need to suit up. Like, we need you. And Jessica states that it's a fight getting even out of her apartment, let alone, like, uh, having to realize that she needs to fight for this planet. So, uh, and so Jessica is stating that the ring given to her is just a big mistake. And I always feel that every single Green Lantern ends up getting told this at some point or another, that they are to say that they had been given this ring by mistake, and it's never the case. That there is always a reasoning for why these rings had chosen these people. And so Wonder Woman has to go on and show that now. So Wonder Woman gets out her sword and starts swinging at Jessica forcing then Jessica to call for her Green Lantern ring and start to defend herself. And Wonder Woman says to Jessica, it's like, well, it doesn't look like a mistake to me. You've got what it takes, Jessica, and stop screening our calls. So the ring goes on and tells Jessica, like, you have the ability to overcome great fear. And Jessica turns the ring and it's like, well, hey, you're a ring. You don't know dick. I thought that was funny. So we now go on and cue to uh, a news crew, a news show, a I'm not sure exactly what is the right terminology here. A news station, and we have Bloodsport, and I'm like, okay, well, I know Bloodsport. Like, Bloodsport is from the Suicide Squad movie, and that's Idris Elba's character. And seemingly in this movie, this character is to be shown as just another kind of mercenary. There's nothing that sticks out about him. He's just Bloodsport, and I'm just like, okay, cool, Bloodsport. But then again, I'm like, Bloodsport looks like crap in this film, as well as also, like, I think there was certain points in time where they just try to figure out ways to just kind of make characters kind of look slightly tweakingly different, just the way they can avoid like some kind of copyrights of some kind of characters, so they have to pay certain people certain things. When it comes down to the way characters are to be presented in a film. But anyways, so we have Bloodsport that is muttering about how he wants to see President Kennedy because he's not assassinated, he's not dead. So we obviously have this guy who is to go on and be delusional and is to say that Kennedy's assassination was a hoax. And like, when honestly hearing this, I'm like, what time period is this um, film to be done when they're talking about President Kennedy? I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, are we just to go on and have this just kind of blatant statement that is to kind of make us not exactly realize when this time period is to have occurred upon this film? It's very weird. So we go on to have Bloodsport be wanting the need of the Weather Girl, as the Weather Girl is supposed to give him a bottle of water. As she does, the Bloodsport is to kind of be annoyed at the fact of how long this took, and because reasonably, like this uh, this building is to go on to be fairly hot in his thoughts of whatever. So Bloodsport is to all of a sudden see that as he is to be distracted, there had been a character that kind of speeds past him, and he notices. This forces him to get his machine gun out and start blasting into the air, not knowing exactly where he should be striking at. So, we are to all of a sudden see this weather girl go and grab Bloodsport, chuck him, and try to take him out here. And we'll come to find out that this weather girl is to actually be Miss Martian in disguise. I'm like, okay, this is cool. So, we of course have Bloodsport that is going on to not know who exactly Miss Martian is because she's kind of much more newer to uh, the Justice League. So we have Bloodsport who has an explosive and he's willing to uh, use that explosive to kind of get what he needs out of this. And we all of a sudden have Batman coming into play here, and he starts to fight off Bloodsport and takes him down. So Miss Martian goes on and is to try and high five Batman. I'm like, yeah, like we're Team Supreme. We killed it. And Batman goes on about how Miss Martian had gone on to, like, well, hey, you gave away our presents. You failed to take them down. And and almost got the hostages killed. And Miss Martian is like, well, obviously this might have been a teaching moment. And so uh, Batman is like, well, yeah, if you want to be a part of the Justice League, like there are definitely better teachers than me, and I'm not doing this with a teenager. And Miss Martian changes into Robin, and that's where Batman goes on to be like, well, point taken, uh, but don't push it. Because he goes on to like, well, touche. It's like you've kind of outsmarted me here. So now we have Mr. Terrific going on with Superman to try and figure out the honeycombed looking black ball that is to go on and actually be the time ship. So the two of them are trying to go on and figure out what the heck that this is, as Mr. Terrific is to say that he is in heaven because of the fact of that he is finally getting something that is challenging him for how intelligent he actually is. And that this is a real puzzle here, and everything that they tried to break this thing with, it's not working. Like they even had Hawkgirl come in and swing her mace, and nothing happened. Nothing worked. So they go on and realize, like, well, hey, if we can't break it with with any kind of real elements here, uh, and Superman can't see it because it's not lead, so it's not something to be like X-ray visioned. Uh, they realize that the sphere is not actually really here, that it's out of phase with them, and they need to somehow sync this time ship thing with actually their time. So Mr. Terrific gives Superman a compliment. He's like, well, hey man, like you must be your father's son. And Superman is like, well, my father was a farmer. And Terrific is like, well, not that father, your other father, your biological father. So they go on to fix the time machine to where Thorak, Mano, and the Persuader appears. And we have this line of which that Superman delivers of like great raw or whatever. It's very weird. So Mano realizes that it's like, all right, Superman, we're here, we're in the right place. So all three of these fatal men make their way to uh, crash their way through these headquarters, and Mano kind of burns his way for them to be able to escape here. It kind of tells these fatal men to freeze, and of course, we would go on to have Superman try and take control of the situation here with his freeze breath, or his breath to just kind of blow these characters away. So Persuader ends up chucking his axe, and like the fight kind of goes all over the place here. Superman goes on and chucks the Persuader through this building to then have to face off against the Rock here. As Superman is going on and facing off against the Rock, we have Mano who is to try and touch Superman, but instead touches this street light, and the street light decays and falls over. Like I don't know exactly like the like I think Mano's powers is that everything just decays, But like I'm gonna go on and just kind of just say that like yeah, it decays. Because you could probably say that it burns, but I think decay is a better just explanation of his powers. So if it's wrong, then anyone can correct me in the comments below. So as further Superman tries to face off against these three men, Superman is to be grabbed with the kind of the crane arm of the Rock, and uh, we have Mr. Terrific that comes into the fold here, trying to take down these characters. I think he ends up taking down Manos here, and so Tharok ends up blasting this sonic weapon that goes on to have Superman just kind of close his ears, and so Superman faces off against the Persuader, and he ends up getting sliced in the chest, forcing him to be bleeding out here, which really does put a damper to the fight. And then, as Tharok is to be holding a gun to Superman here, we have Terrific that uses all of his T-Spears to kind of block and protect both himself as well as also Superman into this kind of shielded dome. And so that then forces the Fatal Men to realize, like, well, hey, we're wasting our time here. Like, this is not what we were meant to go on and do here. We need to do what we plan on doing. So as Terrific realizes that these men are gone, the Terrific changes his T-Spears back into spheres, and Superman falls over and he starts to bleed to death. As the Terrific is to go on and realize, like, all right, like, just stay with me, man, just stay with me. So now at Arkham Asylum, we have Batman talking to an Arkham doctor. I don't know his name. I don't think it's actually Doctor Strange of any kind, or Doctor Strange. Uh, yeah, I think there might have actually been a whoever the doctor is at Arkham that is the bald one. I'm trying to think of that name. Um, but anyways, so as the Doctor and Batman talk about turning in Bloodsport and how the Doctor says to Batman, it's like, well, yeah, you definitely know how to go on and find the most interesting lunatics to kind of bring to us. And like he calls them top shelf lunatics. So Batman then goes on to ask this doctor about, like, well, hey, what about our mystery guest? Batman finds out that the mystery guest to be a guy named Thomas Keller, but there is no fingerprints, there is no nothing to indicate him ever being at all in any kind of record of any kind. And uh, and if there is no record whatsoever of this guy, it just seems that he doesn't really exist. So the doctor goes on and explains how this guy seems to be uh, having bits of delusions and is completely entrenched and is to have just a real space cadet kind of mentality about him. And that there seems to be no way of being able to snap him out of this condition that he's in. And oddly enough, out of everyone that had made their way to Arkham Asylum, it seems that he is the most model patient. And that he has been here for the last 10 months, so a lot of time has passed here. And so we go on to have Starboy, who makes his way to seemingly get some medication, but not the medication he, of course, is to obviously need. So, uh, we have Starboy go on to kind of be met against a guy that is going to be upset with him, and then Two Face comes into the fray here and helps Starboy out. So, uh, Two Face turns to Starboy. It's like, well, hey Thomas, what did I tell you? Uh, Lots of these guys, they're just looking for an excuse. And Thomas is like, well, I know. And Two Face is going on and seemingly getting two helpings of food. And Thomas states to Two Face, like, well, are you eating for two again? Because, like, technically, he is two different people. So, uh, we have Two Face that ends up stating to Starboy, it's like, well, what if I rip one of your lungs out? And then he apologizes because he's like, like, I probably shouldn't have said that. So, Starboy goes on to say to Two Face, like, well, hey, you think that you're two different people. I think I'm really here in the past, but I'm from the present. And then he's like, oh, I love presents. And then Two Face is like, oh boy. So all of a sudden, Starboy is to notice the television and realizing that the Fatal Five had wreaked havoc uh, within, I believe, Metropolis. So Starboy starts freaking out and then realizes the reason why he's here is because of the Fatal Five. So Starboy starts spawning on 555 and then he does state that he really is here from the past, or or that he is really here in his past. And so he has to go on and he has to stop the Fatal Five. That's the only reason why he's really here. So we have guards that are to go on and try to grab Starboy here, and Batman is to think that he should get involved because Thomas, who is to be the model patient, it seems is going to almost start a riot in this prison. So Starboy goes on and uses his powers to chuck these security guards, and then is trying as best with use of his power to break his way through Arkham, which is going on and affecting the prison as a whole, as it seems that we go on to have all the prisoners starting to escape Gotham. Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, even Bloodsport is to go on and almost break out here. And so Harley Quinn is to grab a baton from one of the guards and use her abilities to, as seemingly this acrobatic villain, to take down some prisoners, which leaves a gun onto the ground, which of course Bloodsport takes. I find it kind of hard to believe that there is just a gun so openly used here, but then when kind of thinking about it, I guess since these prisoners are such a high priority of a threat, like, I guess it makes sense to have a possible gun here, but regardless, like, you would think also that this prison would have a much higher level of ability to really easily be able to house all these villains and not have it be so problem some for them to have, like, so many times where Arkham Asylum people just escape so easily because we have it happen all the goddamn time. So we have Batman getting in the fold here, facing off against Poison Ivy's and Harley Quinn's here, and then Bloodsport is have a gun against Batman, and Bloodsport ends up getting beaten up by Miss Martian, who could not wait at the car. So Starboy ends up making his way out of this prison, and uh, as he goes on uh, to leave, Batman is to talk to him. It's like, well, hey, like I didn't know you had powers, Thomas. Like I thought those cops were exaggerating, and Starboy says like, well, yeah, I have to find the bridges, the 21 bridges. I tried to tell you I'm on a very important mission. And so Starboy turns to his superhero costume, and so Mano is making his way to some uh, warehouse of some kind, which eventually will become his lair or his base. And he ends up seeing the spirit of his Empress, Emerald Empress. So uh, we'll come to find that the Empress has been locked away in a science cell for a year now, and she's to kind of be very upset with Mano for how she has been stuck here, and we'll find out that both Mano and Empress are seemingly to be in love with one another, but Thorax brings up a pretty good point of how exactly they can go on and actually touch one another, because logically, like, do they have a sack? Do they have a bag? Like, how does that work? It's kind of funny. So, uh, they realize that they need to go on and they need to find a key to free the Empress. And then they end up showing her in the science cell where she's locked away. So we'll come to find out later in the film that the prison that the Empress is in is actually a prison in Oa, and they need to go on and find a Green Lantern to unlock uh, the Empress from the science cell in Oa, because for how it seems that there wasn't a good enough prison for the 31st century to send this villain. Instead, they brought her to the past and kept her imprisoned there, which is kind of interesting. But then again, also, uh, like you would think then, like that the 31st century would just logically realize that they should kind of do something about how like they can be having to face off against incredible threats, and then they have to lock away all of their rogues gallery in a past prison that just kind of just doesn't quite make sense. If they do imprison any of their foes. But anyways, we then turn to what I would assume is the Hall of Justice. I say that with a question mark just because like it's very uh, interesting if this is to actually be the Hall of Justice here, or maybe what is to go on and be the equivalent of the Justice League headquarters. That is to go on and not be the Watchtower. At some point, we also see the Javelin in this animated thing. I'm like, oh yeah, the Javelin. Like, it's been a while since watching Justice League Unlimited to see the Javelin being used, because eventually we see that right away and the pilot of Justice League Unlimited. But anyways, so Mr. Terrific is trying to heal Superman as Wonder Woman is to make her way into seeing Superman as she came as soon as she heard what was going on. And Superman is to state that it's been a while since he's bled. He's bled his own blood. He's had some blood blooding. That's Superman. Anyways, they try to figure out how exactly Superman had gotten cut the way he did, as Wonder Woman is to assume that Superman had gotten cut by kryptonite, and they're like, no, 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 no. Like, if anything, actually, uh, it is from Persuader's uh, axe, and it seems that the axe is to be so abnormally sharp uh, that it is sharpened to less than a nanometer, and something like that can go on and even cut a guy like Superman. So maybe this can go on and actually be like a thing that they incorporate somewhere in a Superman story to be like, oh, okay, well, like maybe it doesn't take always kryptonite to take down Superman. Maybe it is to go on and just be a absurdly sharpened weapon to this degree that is also take him down and incapacitate him, because we have already shown that logic via this animated film. So, but Mr. Terrific is to go on and say that the T spheres have been collecting residue from the axe, uh, and it is based on a residual taclongs, whatever that means. Um, and that this technology wouldn't be a thing until 1,000 years from now. And so we realize that these foes are from the future, but there's no way to be absolutely sure. And so Batman is state that he thinks that he knows where exactly they are heading, and we have Miss Martian who is making her way into this facility, and Wonder Woman states, "Well, hey, like you're very weirded out that you're here." And Mrs. Martian is like, "Well, like I've been on here on missions before," and Wonder Woman's like, "No, not quite. Like, like it's just slightly tweakingly different because she's an actual Justice League member." Instead of her going on and just being kind of partnered up with Martian Manhunter. And so uh, Wonder Woman is to go on and say that Miss Martian is to be an actual Justice League member, and Miss Martian is like, no, only a potential one. Like, if anything, like if Batman has anything to say about it, like I'm on thin ice. So Batman is going on to talk about him meeting up with Thomas 10 months ago, and how he found him naked, raving. And uh, and so, since realizing that, of course, when Batman saw Thomas and realized that he might have just been a crazy loon, he just sent him off to Arkham. And when Batman is to go on and start looking through his records, he realizes that he's delusional, paranoid, schizophrenic, and partial amnesia apparently. And but he does have an ability, it seems, to have the ability to control mass objects, and he could have leveled Arkham. He's that strong, but he decided, of course, not to. And he also claims that he's from the 31st century. And that, I guess, because of how these other people are to kind of be from the future, it's like, well, I guess this is not quite far off, that it makes a lot of sense. So, uh, we have Batman that is to go on and state that it seems that since uh, Starboy had gone on to see Superman facing off against this team, that's what kind of just kind of set him off here because of him being remembered. And Batman is to also state that it seems that Starboy is trying to find a person known as Limelight, and the team is like, okay, Limelight, like Green Lantern, maybe that's the only thing that actually makes sense. And that Batman is to state that it's like, well, like he mentioned something about 21 bridges, and there's only one place that would go on and match that, and that would be Portland, Oregon. So we now cut to what is to, I guess, be Portland, Oregon, and we have the Fatal Men going on to try and scout out the area to hope that they can find the Green Lantern or Limelight, which I'll probably go on to refer to her just because it's easier to just say that name now that they've kind of said it enough within this movie. So the Fatal Men try to go on and just try to create havoc within the city to try and coax the Green Lantern out. So we see a number of cars being destroyed. We see a number of things being chucked. So we of course go on to have Jessica, who's at her home eating a sandwich, and is to find some breaking news, which talks about there being multiple explosives near a food car park downtown, and that there seems to be 3 costume assailants. The chaos appears to be the work of at least people with high tech weaponry, so on and so forth, and body armor. And so we have Jessica's like, okay, like I gotta do this, like I gotta. So Jessica is to go on and use one of her constructs to help the people out, and she adjusts to have a ramp to have these certain items just kind of roll out of the way to protect people. And they end up making their way to crush onto a couple of cars. There seems to be some people upset about this, and Green Lantern ends up telling the people, it's like, well, hey, that's what insurance is for. So Green Lantern faces off against Tharok here, and Tharok tells Limelight, it's like, well, hey, you're coming with us. If you resist, my colleagues here, my colleague here is called the Persuader for a reason. So here is where Starboy appears to say, hey, leave her alone, as he just kind of puffs his chest out. And so we have Tharok that goes on to blast. I think it's Tharok. Ends up going on to blast Starboy here and kind of knock him back. We go on to then have Green Lantern that faces off against the Persuader. The Persuader ends up grabbing Green Lantern here. So Tharok ends up telling Starboy, it's like, well, hey, this era seems to be treating you well, Starboy. Bit of a little time here, because, yeah. We go on to have the Green Lantern using her constructs to face off against these threats and to create a ball for Starboy, and the two of them just try to get out of there as quickly as possible. So Since there is a gap of time between the Fatal Men and Jessica with Starboy, Jessica ends up asking who exactly is the guy that she's with, of his identity and like why is he here, so on and so forth. So Starboy goes on and explains like Starboy, he just said it, like that's my name, and uh, and you definitely should not go on and be using your ring because it kind of calls out to them. So we have uh Starboy who's to stay here that like she's gonna go on and face off against the five, and Green Lantern or Limelight here say it's like, well, there are only three, like I counted, and uh and so Starboy is like, well, yeah, like it looks like three, but there's actually five. So Mano, Tharok, and Persuader make their way to find both Limelight and both Starboy. And here is where the rest of the Justice League make their way in to defend against these three people. It's kind of sad how like these three people do an equal job of just taking out the Justice League here. It's kind of funny. So uh, we have the Fatal Three here that go on like, well, like the old Justice League. Where's your friend? Still licking his wounds, meaning of course Superman. And so we go on and have the Justice League who's like, well, I don't really know who you are, and so Mano's like, aha, like you guys just love 21st century pleasantries. So like, all right, like I'll go and I'll give into that. So Mano introduces himself, then he introduces Thorak, and or Thorok, and then introduces the Persuader, and so it is kind of funny how Wonder Woman says that the Persuader is a dead man walking. And it's like, yeah. We'll see about that. So the Persuader throws his axe, and we start to have this fight go off. So Tharak is going on and firing off against Batman's and Mr. Terrific's and putting on a good show here. So Terrific is to block this explosive with his T spears to have this kind of shield, but then eventually at some point, like there's just so much fire coming into this attack, like everyone's kind of getting pelted here. So now it's left to Limelight and Starboy to try and face off against Tarok and against his explosives, and they end up getting knocked back. So Woman faces off against the Persuader, and then she gets thrown back. And so the Fatal Three go on and find Limelight again, and they're like, "All right, okay, like we've kind of gotten what we came here for." But then uh, we have Mr. Terrific that is facing off against Mano and Tharok, and we further and further try and have like Wonder Woman's and everything. Like we're still trying to have them fight off against this Fatal Three here. So Mano ends up telling Tarak, it's like, well, hey, like help the Persuader, like I'll take care of the others. Mano goes on and takes the whole parking lot building and decays it to where it all starts to fall down, hoping that that'll take out a good chunk of the Justice League here, which uh, we eventually go on and start to see certain characters coming from the rubble, and Mano is to touch the head of Miss Martian, and it faces through. And Miss Martian tells Mano, it's like, well, yeah, like I heard you were grabby. So Miss Martian takes out Mano. So as the Persuader is flying off with Limelight, Wonder Woman flies in to grab Persuader with this lasso, forcing Limelight to be just chucked off of the Persuader. So Limelight ends up getting caught by Mr. Terrific, which then has Turok to be firing off at Mr. Terrific, which then has him kind of lose the grip of Limelight here, as well as also having the Persuader fly in to kind of smash through Mr. Terrific to try and get to Limelight. So, as Persuader makes his way to try and get to Limelight, here's where Wonder Woman comes in. So, man, like, Persuader and Wonder Woman, like, they just keep duking it out within this entire film. I think they're just a perfect match to one another. So, the further and further this fight plays out, we have both Terrific and Wonder Woman that are to be seemingly the closest to try and get to Limelight, but before Limelight actually hits the ground, we have Superman that swoops in, grabs her, and flies back in to face off against the fight here. So Mano is back facing off against Miss Martian, and Mano goes on to create a much more inflamed, engulfed environment, which is to go on and be, of course, Mrs. Martian's weakness. So Batman comes in to try and protect Miss Martian, and Miss Martian tells Batman he's under there. I can't get near him. So Batman and Miss Martian are to go on and realize all of a sudden that Starboy is to start to use his power, and they then go on to try and have a bit of dialogue with Starboy to much more so understand what exactly is going on. And as Miss Martian is trying to talk to Starboy, he's not really saying much. And so we're at the Big Belly Burger, which of course is be the kind of go-to kind of fast food joint for the DC world, it seems. And we have quite a bit of Easter eggs of this kind of being a thing. Like we see it being used in Arrow, we see it being used in a number of just kind of places, and we're seeing it used here. So, uh, as Miss Martian is trying to talk to Starboy, and she's getting nothing. And that she's like, well, hey, like, at least I'm not Batman trying to question you here. And so, as Jessica goes on and she sits down and she has a burger and she has pudding, it seems that it is quickly to start to become, as Jessica is to just kind of sit next to Starboy. It seems that Starboy is to actually know of Limelight, and so he is to be more welcome to have a conversation with her. So Jessica ends up asking, like, Starboy, it's like, oh yeah, it is Starboy, right? And Starboy, it's like, well, it's actually Thomas, actually. And Jessica states to Thomas is like, well, stressful situations tend to get me really hungry. Like, are you really hungry also? So Jessica says like, well, hey, like, I really want this burger, but I have no real interest in this pudding. And he's like, well, hey, do you want this pudding? And so Thomas grabs the pudding and is like, yeah, like, if anything in Arkham, like, everyone loved pudding, uh, but a lot of people were afraid of the clown, and so that kind of references the Joker here. We have Thomas that goes on to explain that fear of clowns is claustrophobia or calrophobia, whatever that actual phrasing is, a fear of clowns. Chlorophobia. I'm gonna butcher that 80 different times to try to say it in a different way. So, uh, Martian Man or Miss Martian realizes that there's nothing that she can go on and say that'll kind of get this guy to talk. So she looks at Jessica and is like, well, hey, he's all yours. So uh because Miss Martian is gonna go on and get a like a frappuccino or a mochaccino or something. So Jessica turns to Thomas and says her actual name, that she's Jessica. And Thomas knows who exactly she is. And Jessica's like, well, how exactly do you know who I am? And and Thomas says, well, everybody knows about Limelight. So, uh, and so Starboy is to say, it's like, well, that was the one thing that I remembered, even in Arkham. Like, I forgot about the five, but I remembered you. You're the key. The key. And so Starboy is to state how he remembers waking up in the past, uh, but now in the present, uh, and his quattro uh, clozapine is wearing off. His drug that he goes on and is to need to have so that we can remember is kind of wearing off here, and that the television and the pills were like so. And then he finally got to remember the five, just because of uh, so. And then Starboy goes on and grabs his head, and he's to, of course, go on and state how like it's so hard to remember, like he can't think. And Jessica states how like it's hard to just force your mind to do something that you don't want it to. And Jessica knows that all well because of how she's kind of dealt with a lot of problems in her own life. And so Jessica says to Starboy, it's like, well, how would you like to come back with us uh, to the headquarters? Because he doesn't exactly say where exactly they're going. And Thomas says like, well, hey, like, but Thursday is bingo night in Arkham, and uh, oh, she calls it the Watchtower. The Watchtower. Like, I thought it was like the Hall of Justice because it's an actual building. Like, the Watchtower to me is like the satellite that's up in the air, um, or up in space. I mean, that's the Watchtower to me. But anyways, so maybe there's two different watchtowers. It's very weird. So here's where we have Therak, Persuader, and Mano. They're back at their kind of lair, their hideout, and they're trying to figure out exactly what they're supposed to do now. And Mano is like, well, we stick to the plan. It's like, all right, like the perfect plan. Uh, like I guess it really is glowing like clockwork, right? That's what kind of Thorax says here. Uh, and so Thorax is to go on and mention here about how like this plan is really having so many problems with it, and that I guess the Justice League didn't exactly factor into their plans either. But Mano is like, well, this changes nothing. We'll retrieve the key, and so Thorak is like, yeah, about that. Like, we're going through a lot of trouble just to free your girlfriend and retrieve this key, and to free the rest of the Fatal Five. And here's, of course, where like Thorak brings up about like, well, yeah, like we are going on and trying to free your girlfriend. It's like a woman you can't even touch. Like, how does it work anyway? It's like, do you just put it in a sack, or like how does that work? So Mano goes on and starts to choke Thorak here, and is almost to go on and put his hand up to want to just burn this guy and kill him. But he's like, you know what? On second thought, like you do still have that trick, right? You can just make a bunch of bombs, right? And Thorak ends up showing him these bombs. He's like, all right, okay, uh, like maybe if anything, like we'll smoke out our prey here. So now at the watchtower, we go on to have Mr. Terrific state that there is a transmission going on that they can't quite identify, and they will possibly clear out at some point. So while that's going on, we have Starboy that is kind of somewhat getting a tour of the watchtower, and Starboy is like, well, yeah, I know everything about the watchtower because I have a playset at this uh, at the clubhouse. And Jessica's like, clubhouse? Yeah, I guess the clubhouse to be where the Legion is to kind of have their headquarters. So Starboy is to remind Jessica that, like, yeah, I told you, like, I'm a superhero, like, I'm a superhero of the future. So Batman turns to Miss Martian and is like, well, yeah, we need to know what he knows. Like, maybe not every single thing, but, like, we really need to go on and pick his brain. And Miss Martian turns to Batman and is like, well, he doesn't even know what he knows. Like, his mind is like a bag of cats and this and that. So, uh, and so Batman turns to Miss Martian and be like, well, hey, like, you need to bring us into his mind to, like, you, me, and Jessica all need to go in there, and we need to just kind of decipher his brain and figure things out of what happened. So, and Miss Martian turns to Batman. It's like, well, hey, two brains are company, and four is a party. I don't even want to go to. And so Batman is to tell Miss Martian, it's like, well, it has to be Jessica because Jessica is a more calming uh, instrument. So, like, we have to figure this out. So, uh, all four of them get into chairs, one adjacent from the other, and so here's where Starboy mentions that he thinks he's going to the dentist, which isn't the truth, but it looks like the dentist. And Jessica turns to Starboy. It's like, well, hey, like, it's okay. I'm right here. So Miss Martian tells Starboy to just be thinking of his home. So all of a sudden, Jessica, Martian, and Batman appear at uh, at Starboy's home in the future. We realize that Starboy is not going to be here because it's all in his mind, but eventually he will appear later on as things sort of really start to play out here. So they look outside what is to, I guess, be this futuristic window and realize that there are flying cars and uh, and all kinds of things that would kind of let them know that this is to go on be the distant future. Batman ends up asking where exactly Thomas is in this whole thing because, like, Thomas should actually be their guide. And Miss Martian is like, well, yeah, he is here, but he's just like, we haven't quite connected with his ego yet to really have him kind of be flushed out here. So, and also, Starboy is kind of scared, so, like, he needs time. So, they go on to notice that there is a med kit that is to have uh, Starboy's drugs to go on and help him with his memory. And so they're like, man, I wish we can go on and kind of pluck this from his brain and use this to help him in present day. And like, it would have been interesting if they could go on and be able to take this med kit and like have some way to uh, kind of figure out a way to make this medication via just kind of looking at it or whatever, but like they can't. So sadly enough, so Miss Martian is to go on and notice a picture, and she thinks it's of Starboy's girlfriend, but Jessica is like, well, maybe it's not a boyfriend girlfriend thing. Maybe it's his cousin. And so Miss Martian is like, yeah, maybe you're right. As well as also thinking like, well, hey, maybe he's going to end up with somebody. We have to assume here. So Jessica is to go on and ask like, hey, Thomas, where are you? Like, we need to talk. And so the further and further Batman, Jessica, and Martian start to make their way into just Thomas's brain, the more that they just kind of just start to see these spots that would be of the future and are to be things like the Legion Museum, and they're starting to go on and see a bunch of Legionnaires that are all go on and have their bits of statues, and eventually they will go on to actually see the Legion in action here. So we start to go on and see some Legionnaire members like Dawnstar or the Bouncing Boy or Mon-El, which I guess is to be the future Superman character, I guess. Uh, Chameleon Boy and Tyrock. Some of these characters. Uh, Shadow Lass. uh, Characters that I'm very much more unfamiliar with, but we're kind of seeing them in the background of this kind of Legion museum here. That they're all just kind of statued-esque like figures. And so Jessica spots Starboy's statue, and so we have the voice of this Legion museum thing going on and explaining all about this museum. And so we also go on to find that there's to be a whole wing that is to be of Justice League massive like statues that are all done in gold or bronze or whatever. So they make their way through this like huge hallway that have all these massive statues, and Miss Martian ends up being happy because she realizes that she made the cut. And it would be kind of interesting, like if Batman is to go on and say like, "Hey, don't get your hopes up, kid." Like, but obviously, like Miss Martian is to realize that she becomes a member of the Justice League. So maybe that's to have Batman have a bit of sway of like, well, like we know in the future she becomes a Justice League member anyway, so we might as well have gone on to make her one because the future tells us that. But so Batman even goes on to see his own statue and he looks at it. And of course, like, obviously, Batman is going to go on and say, like, yeah, looks nothing like me. Because, of course, that's Batman for you. Like, we wouldn't go on and ever have Batman actually be satisfied about that. So, Jessica goes on to see the Green Lantern uh, wing, and she sees Guy Gardner, she sees Hal Jordan, she sees John Stewart, and she sees Kyle Rayner. That is to be done up in a more white costume. And we can nitpick about this, but I also think that like this costume is to actually go on and be a thing where when you look at it, uh, it it definitely goes on and makes you go, "Oh yeah, that's Kyle Rayner." When you look at the costume, whereas if it was done in any other manner of way, you would probably be like, "Who the heck is that?" And like, I guess that's Kyle Rayner. But even that, like, you would probably look at the Guy Gardner one and just be like, "I think that's Guy Gardner," because you're not 100% sure because bowl cut or uh, the vest is to kind of just be of a green nature instead of green and white and what like there's some traditional looks of Guy Gardner here, but you kind of have to just try to piece or figure it out here. So Jessica realizes that the Green Lantern Corps has been lost to the ages, and that all of these things are just be of the legendary Green Lantern Corps. And Limelight goes on to spot her own self within these statues to realize that these are to all be of the fallen Green Lanterns. So I'm kind of curious how that exactly happens. Like, if there is to be some kind of comic book story or some place where I can find this out, would actually be kind of interesting of how this plays out within the stories of the DC world of things. So but if anything, like the more and more they start to make their way through this headquarters, like we start to realize that there's too much of the future that is getting revealed here and may go on and be course corrected at some point. Uh, but from knowing future knowledge, so they realize that like, well, hey, we need to go on and we need to get to more pressing matters. Like, we need to know more about the fatal three here of who they are and what was to be the all breakdown of the situation here. So we go on to all of a sudden see the lead up of how um, Valdus goes on and breaks through one of the fatal five, breaks through these headquarters and starts to go on and facing off against the Legion here. So uh, we have the Monel who is going on and facing off against Valdus and facing off against Persuader. And we have, I believe, Tyrus here, who we kind of see. Uh, Tyrock, who we kind of see here also. Facing off against these characters. Again, the Legion is kind of much more unfamiliar to me. I'd have to go on and definitely need to rewatch the Legion of Superheroes, but then also I probably wouldn't remember who these characters are, anyways. And so we have Mano, who is facing off against the Changeling boy. Uh, God, these names are just so like it feels very alien to me to say any of these names because of how unfamiliar I am with them. Um, uh, Chameleon Boy is what I want, not Changeling Boy. Chameleon Boy. Uh, yeah, that's how much I know about these characters. I'm saying them wrong. So, uh, but at least I'm kind of correcting myself as I go along here. So, it is kind of interesting how Chameleon Boy turns to like all of these like almost dinosaur or almost kind of like alien, kind of beast boyish like things. So it's like, okay, this is interesting. So we have Saturn Girl that goes on. Maybe it's Tyrock. Um, we have Tyrock that ends up blasting uh, the Persuader here. And to me, I almost thought that it was actually to go on and be Saturn Girl because, like, just power set. But so, uh, the further and further we have this fighting out here, uh, oh no, no wait, it is Tyrock. Tyrock has this kind of just this sonic blast of a thing. It kind of like Tyrock to me kind of looks like Black Canary in a way. But so we have the Empress coming in with the Eye of Ekron and the Emerald Eye of Ekron. For those of you that are wanting to have the exact name, I'm going to go on and probably just call it the Eye of Ekron just because it's freaking easier to just state. Instead of the Emerald Eye of Ekron, just because it's such a long name here. So the Empress makes her way with the Eye uh, to start to take out the League here. Shadow Lass comes in, if I'm to say that name right, because I have no idea. Uh, Shadow Lass, yeah. Shadow Lass comes in here and starts to circumference a ball of shadow with these characters. And, like, here's where we start to see that at some point the tide is going to change with the Legion if, like, this Faithful Five was trying to take them out. How this tide is starting to turn here, which leads to uh, um, Manel face off against Valdez here, or Validus, the Faithful Five member. That's a really hard pronouncing name. So, uh, as the Faithful Five all come together, here's where Starboy comes into fray and starts using his powers, and then we have Starboy actually appear from behind Jessica, Martian Manhunter, and Batman, and be like, "But yeah, you see, I am a Starboy, or I'm a superhero." So we then go on within this story, as I really have to go on and try to pace this out here. So as Starboy, Saturn Girl, and Brainiac with this seemingly laser gun, one by one starts to take out this Faithful Five. Saturn Girl uses her mind powers to kind of bring down all the Faithful Five, and uh, we would go on to have Valdus, Validus, yeah, that name, Validus, uh, try to blast, and Brainiac ends up using his blaster to try to take down Validus, and as further we would go on, to also see Brainiac blasting the Empress, we have Mano who's like, Empress! So, uh, we go on to have the Legion team uh, imprison the Empress here. And the reason why every single one of the Fatal Five isn't all imprisoned is they decide that they need to get the heck out of there. They need to leave. And so that way they can escape, so that way they can get the rest of the team back as a whole later on. So Validus, the Eye of Echaron, and the Empress ends up all getting imprisoned here. So the team ends up getting separated. And so the Empress tells the Legion here that there's nothing that can hold her. And Saturn Girl turns to Brainiac. It's like, well, she's kind of right. And so Brainiac is like, well, like, if none of our prisons can actually be strong enough to hold her, then maybe a prison of the past could actually hold her then. So, uh, so Saturn Girl turns to Starboy and is asking him about his medication. And Starboy is like, well, yeah, I definitely will take my medication. And Saturn Girl is to turn to Starboy. It's like, well, hey, look at me, look at me. Like, you miss only a couple of doses and it won't work anymore. You'll get worse. You won't be in the Legion. You'll never be able to think straight again. And so Jessica, Batman, and Miss Martian look at Starboy. It's like, well, is what she's saying true? And Starboy is like, well, I forgot. Like, I wasn't here. It doesn't exist. I tried to find my medication, uh, and so the further and further we see that Thomas is starting to get really upset here, the more they're starting to lose the connection with him. And so uh, Batman is to go on and think here that maybe there's something that they can like try to do, and Miss Martian is like, what do you want me to do? It's not like I can go on and hit pause here or anything. Also, like, when they're going through, like, Starboy's memory, like, Batman is like, well, should we, like, join in here? Should we try to stop the Fatal Five in the future? And Miss Martian is like, this is a memory. Like, we can't do anything. So, uh, so Batman ends up forcibly being awakened by Mr. Terrific, and Terrific states to Batman that they have just received a message from the Fatal Five. So, Mano ends up giving a message to the Justice League stating uh, that to not take their threats lightly. Metropolis will be the first of the cities to be flattened from the others one by one. And in the uh, and in a uh, bit of destruction you never dreamed possible. Or simply hand us over the lantern. We promise no harm will come to her. We only need her assistance. Decide quickly. The cost of hesitation is the blood of innocence. So, Terrific says that this is where the message ends. There's no way to trace the signal. So, uh, So it's like, all right, well, what is our game plan? Like, what's the play here? So we of course have Wonder Woman that states like, well, we don't negotiate from terrorists, even terrorists that are B from the 31st century. And Batman's like, well, I agree. So Terrific is to go on and realize that there is a number of unusual energy frequencies that he had found earlier. And as they start to look at a number of these things all starting to pop up here, we have Superman that realizes that these are all explosives and they're starting to go off. So he runs off to find buildings that are to start to crumble here as he flies off to stop them from falling. As Wonder Woman is to start to get into like spotting what is happening here, and Superman's like, "Well, hey, I got this. You go somewhere else and kind of help." So we go on to, of course, have Jessica, who's to like, "Well, hey, I should be doing something, right? I should be helping out the team." And Batman turns to Jessica. It's like, "Well, hey, like you gotta stay here. You're the only one they're after. So, like, if anything, like you're probably gonna be the safest here." So Starboy ends up turning to the rest of the group. It's like, well, hey, like, well, I'm a superhero. Like, shouldn't I go on and like you saw I am. Like, shouldn't I be going on and doing something too? But we realize that like Starboy should probably go on and be like a defense. Like if these people try to make their way to Jessica, wouldn't you think that would be the first thing that they would actually just try to do? Like the Fatal Three know exactly where this headquarters was because that was like the first thing they ended up seeing. So shouldn't they just trotch back there or make their way back there? So there's a plane that goes on and loses one of its propeller jets and it starts to go down. And Mr. Terrific swoops in and uses all of its T spears to make the jet being able to be able to fly again so it can land. We all of a sudden have this subway station that ends up exploding, and the uh, the light rail ends up going, or the train or whatever ends up just kind of derailing and falling. And so Miss Martian is to use her power to be able to phase people through this train so they end up getting safe. And then also there is another train that is coming, so Miss Martian goes on and is to use her ability to her strength to stop the train from continuing on, and she just stops it in just the nick of time. So Jessica and Starboy are watching this carnage unfold, and Jessica is like, "Well, hey, like I have to fricking do something. Um, like nothing about what is going on is right." So uh, even for how messed up that Jessica feels that she is, that that she knows what she has to do and she has to turn herself in, and that she has to get out of here and she has to go on uh, and so Starboy is telling Limelight here about how like, well, hey, you're Limelight, you're the bravest, and Jessica says, like, just stop. Like, I'm not the bravest. Most days I'm scared of putting this ring on and scared to get out of bed. And so all of a sudden she ends up having her ring go off and she is to hear a conversation that is to uh, have her realize, like, okay, like I need to kind of uh, talk to this alone, uh, or answer this alone. And so Jessica has Starboy leave the room, and so she goes on to answer the conversation that is to be only heard by her, from the Green Lantern's ring frequency, it seems. So the frequency goes on and tells Jessica, that's like, well, hey, like, you don't want your people to die now, do you? Like, you have the power to stop this. Like, follow this signal. Come alone. So Jessica makes her way to meet up with the Fightful Three, and I'm kind of curious if this is the exact same area of her origin, and this is to kind of like just remind us of that area, and how Jessica is trying to face off against her past, and and say, like, okay, now I'm here, and uh, Thorak, I believe, is to call himself, like, man, like, I'm so good, maybe I should go on and call myself the Persuader. And Mano is to say, it's like, well, you made a brave choice, girl. And Jessica's like, well, yeah, real brave. I surrendered. Uh, and it's like, well, hey, you brought life to your city, right? Like, you care about your people, as I care about mine. And so Jessica's like, well, what do you want? And it's like, well, yeah, we're gonna take a bit of a road trip to Oa to see some friends. And and if she doesn't come along with this plan and doesn't work with them, then Tarok is to kind of have his finger fire off and an explosion again happens. So Jessica's like, oh, okay, I'll do whatever you want. So we have Jessica that takes the Fatal Three here and puts them in a Green Lantern ball and goes to Oa. So, uh, as the Fatal Three go on and realize that there's a possibility that Oa may be like chock a block full with a number of Green Lanterns, they're thinking of the possibility that maybe the Fatal Five, or in this case, the Fatal Three, may have gone on to been the downfall of the actual Green Lantern Corps. And I believe Mano is to go on and say it's like, well, yeah, like in all actuality, during the time period of when we have come to Oa, that isn't to actually be the case. That Oa is kind of a much more deserted planet because there is a war going on right now, and that it seems that Oa is very much understaffed. So, so they make their way into having Jessica have a message from the Green Lanterns, Oa, to be like, well, hey, like, you were to go on and have a unscheduled approach. And Jessica's like, well, yeah, I'm bringing in prisoners to Oa. And Jessica's like, well, yeah, it's all good. It's situation green. And so the people of Oa are to go on and let Jessica in and say, okay, please proceed to the detention compound. And so they let her into Oa. So we'll come to find out that that situation green actually means that the Green Lanterns, whoever is kind of left on Oa, needs to act because Jessica is kind of just held in this position, this problem, and so on. So uh, Jessica makes her way to Oa, and Thorok just kind of goes off to the side, just kind of wait things out. So the Persuader and Mano make their way to the prison cell, and so Mano tells Jessica to say a certain form of words to free uh, uh, Valdis and the Emperor of Vanagar, uh, Saria. So, as these prison cells are to seemingly start to get opened, as Jessica is to put her Green Lantern ring upon these doors, and characters are to start to get free here, we all of a sudden are to go on and have Manos realize, like, man, this is easy. This is child's play. And all of a sudden, Kilowog comes in. Of course, you would obviously know him as a more prominent Green Lantern Corps member. Like Kilowog comes in, he's like, well, hey, like, child's play, playtime, play with this. And so Kilowog brings in this brick construct to face off against these characters, and so there's a bit of time here where we have Kilowog turning to Jessica. It's like, well, hey, like situation green, uh, like lantern under duress, like glad you did your homework, kid. There was also a time where Kilowog says the word poozer here, which Poozer actually doesn't quite fit right with what he says in this situation because, like, he says it to the villains. He calls them a poozer, and like that actually doesn't make sense to me because a poozer, I believe, is actually like a rookie Green Lantern. I think is a poozer, but maybe in this situation, it's just kind of a rookie character, and maybe like they just throw poozer out there just because it's something to say here. Uh, Maybe Kilowog actually should have just said to Jessica, it's like, well, like it looks like you're not a poozer after all, and maybe that would have made a lot more sense. But so, because if anything, if you see in certain other Green Lantern animated stuff, like uh, there is a animated thing of Green Lanterns where they kind of do all a bunch of like these side stories where Kilowog goes off with his with this character that's kind of leading him, and at some point they use Poozer a lot more often because it's the very first time that ever Kilowog is to have become a Green Lantern Corps member, and he ends up getting uh, the green uh, being put onto his costume to make it so that it's Kellogg's first ever time where he is to go on and be a actual member of the Green Lantern Corps, as the person who is going on to have led him dies in that animated project of film of whatever. Anyways, moving on. So Kilowog ends up using this mace and the Persuader, and so Kilowog tries to go on and tries to use a good enough um, like bout against these guys, and then also we bring in another Green Lantern here, which of course the name will obviously go on to escape me, uh, but I do have it somewhere here. Uh, Salak. Salak will go on and uh, be a part of this fight here. And at one point, he has this kind of funny one liner here where he says fart nuggets, which I thought was funny. But, anyways, uh, I kind of gotta get back my. Let me pause here for a second. Okay, so since Jessica is going on and trying to fight alongside Kilowog and Salak here, uh, she is to go on and be using constructs, but eventually this is all for naught. Eventually, the Green Lanterns still get kind of overpowered here, and even it seems that they go on and kind of tease the fact here that uh, like regardless of like the constructs that like Kilowog uses in his guns and whatever, like they go on to bizarrely tease the fact that maybe Kilowog is to get killed in this situation because if you actually look at certain bits of information of of the characters like the character list in this movie and you start to thumb through it like some people are to be called to be killed or died and it seems that Kilowog may be one of them but like I don't know if that's 100% true or not and then also I don't think that you could really kill a character like Kilowog you could probably kill any number of like um C or D just kind of Green Lanterns here that eventually end up being used in the story, but not Kilowog. That doesn't make any sense. So to me, I was like, Kilowog's not dead. Like Kilowog's just injured, and it seems that also, like it seems that Jessica is to try to figure out a way to not say that Kilowog is actually dead in the story. Even though he has a big, huge, massive hole in his chest, that would probably mean dead. But so, uh, so Jessica is forced to go on and free the Empress, as well as the Eye of Eric or Ekron. Uh, yeah. I probably don't have that name right. Whatever. So, I'm sure I'll find it somewhere in my notes somewhere. But anyways, so and I've probably said the Emerald Eye of Ekron. I've probably said it a number of times, anyways. So it's close, freaking enough. So, uh, Jessica tries to go on and use her constructs to have Salak and Kilowog just kind of be put gently down on the ground. As she then has to go on and realize that she is to try and face off against the Fatal Five at this point. And so what ends up happening is the Persuader ends up using his axe and cuts Jessica's ring. And I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. Like, how is Jessica going to go on and be able to become a Green Lantern without her ring? Like, this makes some interesting bit of story here. So, Jessica loses her ring, and we then see her without her costume, and so uh, the Emperor is to go on and say it's like so much for the legendary Jessica Cruz, and so the Empress takes the Eye of Ekron and destroys the environment that is to be surrounding Jessica, Kilowog, and Salak. And the Faithful Five start to make their way uh, from out of Oa, and all of a sudden we start to see certain other Green Lanterns being present here. Um, uh, Chaselon, which is the diamond uh, Green Lantern here that has like the metal arms and has the orange mohawk, as well as also Barrier Watt, who is the kind of the almost werewolf looking Green Lantern, or I would say If you really have a Green Lantern that looks like Wolverine, this would be that character. And the two of these Green Lanterns try and face off against the Fatal Five, and they end up getting freaking wiped out here. They end up getting taken down here. So the Fatal Five make their way to the massive uh, Green Lantern power battery, the one that is to really be like the definitive Green Lantern power battery that everyone who is at OA, who is a Green Lantern, goes on to eventually go to instead of their own individual lanterns to just kind of power themselves up when they're at OA. They just oddly just decide to just all just make their way to this lantern and then just call the oath and get the power from that instead of going from their individual lanterns. When they're not at OA, they go to their individual lanterns. So just because it's just more efficient that way. So the Empress is wanting to go on to have the Eye of Ekron take all of uh, the energy from this power battery. So if any Green Lantern is to come back to Oa, they realize that there is no power within this power battery to use. So back at Earth, all of the explosives had all been put into T-spheres and were shot out into space. And Superman goes on and takes his heat vision and explodes all of those bombs off into space. So it's like, well, that's the end of that. Not quite. We have an even bigger problem. So they make their way back to the Watchtower to find out that Jessica is now missing. And that Starboy had kind of looked everywhere for her and couldn't find her. And so they all have to go on and need to figure out exactly uh, where the time machine is. And Terrific is to say it's like, well, it's in a safe place. And come to find out that is exactly where the Fatal Five are heading next to make their way to this time machine. So the Fatal Five make their way into this liquor store, and there's a gentleman that's going on and saying like, "I'm sorry, boys, but we're closed." So we have Tarok that ends up telling the guy behind the counter, "Hands up," and so they end up killing the guy behind the counter, and then further making their way through this facility, which then forces these guys with guards and guns to kind of defend this place, this underground place. So Mano ends up going on to using his decay powers to kind of burst their way through this place, and Tharok ends up using the shield to kind of thrust their way through the bullets that are flying here. Yeah. Uh, the Emerald Eye of Ekron. I've been saying that right. At least that's nice to know. A little bit late though. A little bit late. I knew that was way later than it probably should have been, but regardless. So the Fatal Fives easily just starts to like murder and kill all of these guards. Plus, also with the Eye of Ekron having the whole entire power of the power battery, like it's just going on and just having these like tethers that are just ripping through people and slicing through people like butter. So they make their way to the time machine, and of the time ship, and uh, so the Empress, instead of going on and thinking that they should just go back to the future, instead she's like, well, how about we go on and how about we destroy the superheroes in current time? Like, how about we go on and like how about we actually just destroy the sun? Because if we destroy the sun, like we'll like destroy this planet, and as well as also like when you think about it, if you destroy the sun, like you destroy Superman. Like Superman won't have his powers because there is no sun for him to get his powers from, and like that'll just lead to the downfall of this planet in a number of ways. So the Empress wants to go on and she wants to destroy their sun, and like the other Fatal Five members are like, well, she's kidding, right? And Empress is like, no. Like, think of all the heroes this planet alone has spawned, and if we destroy their sun, we destroy them all. The League, the Martians, the Legion, the United Planets, like, uh, we return to our time with virtually no one to oppose us. And we have Mano that turns to Empress, like, well, how exactly do we do this? And it's like, well, the Eye, of course, with the Eye having the power of the whole entire power battery, uh, like it definitely can contain enough power to wipe the sun out. So we have the Javelin and we have the Justice League making their way to, of course, where the time machine is. So we have the Persuader going on and uh, spotting the Justice League with their javelin, and he ends up taking his axe and cutting through it, and then also ripping through it. So he Vision is to go on and be used, and like the characters are having to like now scramble here. Validus is to go on and face off against Superman here. Uh, Wonder Woman is to go on and grab Starboy from out of the ship, and she ends up getting faced by the Persuader. Again, more Persuader Wonder Woman fighting here. So at some point, the Persuader ends up getting chucked into the mountain. So Batman, Terrific, and Martian realize that there is a way that they can get into this compound, but they need the help of Miss Martian to open this door. So Miss Martian goes through the door, ends up touching her hand into the computer, ends up opening it. So Miss Martian ends up doing this whole joking thing of like, well, hey, we're open for business, and then all of a sudden Turek comes in and starts blasting away. So Terrific uses his T-Spears to go up against Turok, and it seems that seems to be a non-starter. Batman goes on to use his bat wings. Finally, Terrific does use one of his T-Spears to put on Turok's face to kind of block him from being able to see here. Really good tactic, really smart tactic. So, Terrific is to tell Batman, it's like, well, hey, I got this one. Like, you go on, you focus on something else. So, as Batman makes his way to realize that he's going to face off against Mano, and uh, oh, I guess Mano's power is disintegration. I just said decay because it's a lot easier. But yeah, I guess probably disintegration would probably have been a better word, but I just said decay. Anyways, so uh, Mono turns to Batman and is like, "Oh, Batman, is it? I think I will disintegrate you slowly." And Batman's like, "Bring it, Skeletor." Kind of a weird, goofy Easter egg reference here uh, to what this character kind of looks like in a way. So now back at Oa, Jessica is stuck under uh, a piece of rubble that is kind of having her leg get caught. So Jessica is yelling for Kilowog to wake up, so that way Kilowog can call for some assistance, and she just cannot go on and get Kilowog to wake up. So Jessica is now in desperation to realize that there's only one thing that she can go on and do at this point, and she used to go on and be like, all right, okay, like in brightest day and blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light. And so all of a sudden, Jessica's ring, all of a sudden, like, if we are to be kind of confused ever before, if there ever is to be a time where, like, what is to go on and happen if a Green Lantern ring, like, gets destroyed? Like, how can a Green Lantern still be a Green Lantern? Here's the case here, where the Green Lantern ring ends up reforming and ends up becoming a Green Lantern again, and is to be given back to Jessica for her to get the costume and is to help out her friends and get her out of there. Before Jessica collapses, she tells her ring to take her home. So Diana is facing off against the Persuader again. She ends up getting thrown. As the Persuader tries to call for his axe, we have Wonder Woman that grabs the axe and is to try and pull it away from the Persuader, and creates kind of a bit of interesting kind of just battle here. Whereas like Wonder Woman is to grab Persuader by the legs and start to swing him here. Uh, Superman is to go on and face against Validus, and there's some pretty good just kind of like bit of fighting going on here, like the chucking and the strength battle here. Validus is to go on and want to use his blast beam, but before that is to go on and actually be a thing, Superman uses his heat vision to thrust him away uh, from where he is being pushed, and he goes on to heat vision Validus in the face to kind of knock him back here. So the Justice League team here regroups with Starboy, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And Superman looks at Wonder Woman like, hey, you okay? And she's like, a broken nail. Finding the Persuader kind of just in this hole. So Mano is again back with Batman, if we didn't know. And there's to be a door that ends up exploding because Mano has touched it. And Batman ends up thrusting a bunch of explosives on Mano's head. This is to go on and remind me of Superman Batman Public Enemy, as it seems that Batman is going to be very frivolous with his explosives, just kind of chucking them wherever. So as Batman goes on to fight against Mano, I'm like, well, how is Batman gonna beat Mano here? Come to find out, Batman is to have the ability to figure out pressure points. So as Batman faces off against Mano, all of a sudden Mano is to realize that he is to not be able to move his arm, and Batman says like, well, yeah, like I use pressure points against you. Like even though you're not really human, you can still fall like one. So Batman goes on and is to use the ability to take down Mano here, and so Starboy ends up saying to Batman, like, man, you really are scary. So here is where The Empress and the Eye of Ekron comes in here to face off against the Justice League. Superman ends up asking where exactly is Jessica Cruz, and the Emperor states that I imagine the body is quite cold by now, assuming that she is to go on and be dead. The Empress goes on and uses her Eye of Ekron to have every single one of the superheroes here forced down to the ground, and Empress either even kind of covers her bases by saying like, well, yeah, like the reason why Superman can just easily just kind of fall to the ground here also is because some of this power is just also laced with kryptonite. So we then transition to Jessica waking up at her bed, realizing that now that she has power, that she is going to now glow and have her eye have the lantern symbol, and she's to go on and look at her door and blast the out of it, and it's like, all right, so it seems that Jessica has finally realized that like she is to go on and be um like I'm not gonna just be afraid of getting out my door anymore. I'm gonna have the door always be open. So Jessica flies off. So as still the Emperor is just kind of above uh, all of the Justice League here, and the Fatal Five is to start to make their way back to uh, just kind of this room, seeing the Justice League just kind of hurt the way they are. So we then have the Star of Ekron that is to make its way to the sun to destroy it. So we have the Empress that is going on and saying like, well, yeah, in 3 more minutes, like their uh, their world will end and ours will begin, and so on and so forth. Yeah, I don't know the actual phrasing here. Or no, wait, their history stops and ours begins. That's what she says. So because the Fatal Five make their way into the time ship and Validus starts to grab onto it, and all of a sudden Jessica appears with this chain construct and is like, well, like this is gonna happen just yet. So the Fatal Five realizes that Limelight is back, uh, and so the Empress is crying out for Validus to stop her. So also, it seems that the time ship has been broken, has been kind of shattered in a way. So as the Fatal Five try and go on and take out Limelight here, Limelight's constructs will be very interesting here. A bunch of chains and a bunch of uh, just ways of which that is to try and take her down, but like all for naught. Like Jessica will of course be so overwhelmingly strong that all of her chain attacks and all of her hammer attacks will go on and just beat down the Fatal Five here, all by herself. We'll even have a point where Jessica is to construct this kind of laser gun, and she fires upon these people. So we'll even get to a point where Jessica faces off against Mano and has him accidentally burn his own emperor's face, and I thought that was actually rather cool. It's like, all right, this is interesting. So Jessica ends up becoming so powerful that she ends up having all of the destruction of the site that is around them. She ends up having it crumble all down onto every single one of these Fatal Five members, supposedly killing all of them. We then have a Green Lantern spear that ends up protecting all of the Justice League members, as well as also Jessica, because I'm not quite sure if she's an official Justice League member yet. And so now we have to go on to more pressing members. The Eye of Ekron is still making its way to the sun, and so Superman hopes that it's not too late. So Superman flies off. So Superboy turns to Limelight and tells her, it's like, hey, you need to take me to stop the Eye of Ekron. Take me, Starboy, and like I can do this. Like Superman can't do this, but I can. I know I can. So Jessica and Starboy make their way to the sun. So as Superman goes on to grasp the Eye of Ekron, he ends up getting so close to the sun. I'm like, well, is this gonna be like All Star Superman, where he gets so close to the sun that he ends up dying? Is that what is gonna happen here? Um, because he's way too close to the sun. And so Superman ends up going on and getting shucked away from the sun, from the power of the Eye of Ekron. So now both Limelight and Starboy make their way to the sun to start to see that the sun is starting to break up. So because uh, maybe it's the sun, maybe it's not the Earth. I was just trying to do a good boyfriend girlfriend breakup thing, but like it just didn't quite work out there. It sounded dumb in my brain after thinking about it. So maybe it's not you, it's me, the sun. So uh, Jessica is to possibly think that maybe she can use her constructs to maybe just hold the planet and it doesn't work that way. So Starboy is to go on and just be like, no, 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 no. Like it would take 1,000 lanterns to go on and do something like that. Like it has to be pulled. Uh, like it has to be pushed back together, and so like held together. And so Starboy goes on and is to lay himself at the bottom of this Green Lantern sphere, and is to use his powers to start cracking the Green Lantern sphere. And Jessica's like, no, not like this. And Starboy turns to Limelight. And it's like, don't you see, Limelight? Like, I'm the only one who can do this. And so uh, Jessica says, like, Thomas. And he's like, it's Starboy. I'm a superhero. So we had to go on and realize that, like, kind of foreshadowing what Saturn Girl had said to Starboy about how when he was to go on and obviously for a very long time not have his medication with him, that like he can no longer become a Legion or a member of the Legion. So there is no way that Starboy was going to end up going back to the Legion to his time. There is no way that that was ever going to happen. So he has to die here. It makes the most sense for him to go on and actually die here. It makes sense. So Starboy goes on and is to try and control the sun as Jessica gets far too close to the sun to almost get sucked into it. Because if we were to go on and know anything, like if you get far too close to the sun, like the pull of the sun just kind of pulls you in. And so Superman is to go on and find Jessica and grab onto her and try to fly out to try to fly to a much more safer distance. So Jessica has to go on and watch Superboy die, as Jessica is to be very emotional and start crying, and Superman is to hold Jessica's shoulder. And this is such a good moment here, and I was just like, man, this is so freaking sad. Uh, so Jessica goes on and is to just thrust away from the sun in tears, and we see that the son is okay, but of course Starboy is dead. So the next thing we end up seeing is a funeral done for Thomas, because even though he was to have gone on and get killed in the sun, like they still were to go on and have a grave for him here. So Jessica goes on and states a Martin Luther King thing where only in darkness can we see the stars. And that's kind of true uh, for all the stars except one, which is to go on and be Thomas here. And I think none of us will be able to look at the sun again without thinking about what Thomas had did for us, for all of us. And what he had even done for Jessica here. So he told me I was brave, and then once Jessica had Starboy tell her that, she started to believe it herself. And no offense to anyone here, but Starboy is my hero. So we all of a sudden have a bunch of time ships come in with the Legion from their time, making their way to the funeral and wanting to go on and have their own bit of like their moment here with Thomas realizing how much he had saved the present as well as also their future. So Batman turns to Miss Martian and states like, "Hey, you're gonna see a lot of strange things with us." Like, and so Miss Martian is like, "Huh? Like, what are you talking about?" And Batman is like, "Oh, like you didn't know? Like we voted, and you're gonna be in the Justice League." And Miss Martian's like, "Oh, really?" And Batman is like, "Oh, well, you don't even want to know how I voted." I'm sure, like, Batman knows in the future that Miss Martian is going to be a Justice League member, so I'm sure he said, like, well, yeah, like, I saw the future and she makes it into the Justice League, so, like, let's bring her in. So, Jessica talks to the Legion and is to be glad that they had come to this funeral service. And Brainiac mentions how like Limelight was so important to him, and this is just kind of how they end this animated movie. I was like, like that's kind of how it ends. Like, I didn't exactly like the ending because, like, I didn't exactly feel that it definitively like stopped the Fatal Five. Like, we just have to assume that in that rubble, like, I guess like that rubble killed the Fatal Five. Um, But then also, like, I didn't exactly like this ending. But regardless, like, this is almost 3 hours freaking anyway, so I'm gonna try to get out of here so that way I can just put this video out for today. So thank you for going on and watching this video. I'm sure you probably had only watched it very briefly, but regardless, I enjoyed this movie, and so that was great to just talk about it. So I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.